blankets on my FOMO tendencies. How you doing, David?
Doing pretty well, man. Just enjoying
All
this
right.
market action right now.
Yeah.
How about you?
Um, yeah, pretty good. It's a bit of a bloodbath out there. Now, before we get into it, let's hear from our very first sponsor of Token Narratives, which is Bitcoin OS.
Bitcoin OS is the ultimate upgrade to Bitcoin. Bitcoiners can now experience the magic of the entire crypto world without giving up control of their hard-earned sats, using a system that's based on zero-knowledge cryptography rather than trust the way Satoshi intended. Bitcoin OS is powered by the Boss token, the binding energy that reawakens Bitcoin as the foundation of a united crypto world. Enter the Boss token presale and be early to Bitcoin again.
All right. Thank you to Bitcoin OS. All right, David. So what's happening here? We got a bit of a market sell-off,
Yeah.
possibly on the back of the FOMC news. It seems that could
I
be the
don't know.
trigger here, but who
It
knows?
could that could be the trigger. It could also be the fact that you got a haircut. If I'm looking at a
Yes,
haircut over there.
exactly. I'm no longer a ponytail toting douchebag. I'm now a respectable member of society. I even have a collar, and
Yeah.
yes, looking very
Yeah, you
good.
look very kind of finance bro-ish, I have to say. Yeah, you look like you're about
I
to
don't know. What have I
ready to
done?
go. But yeah, I mean, uh, FOMC meeting maybe it could have caused this. We have just been going up quite a bit for a while. It's also earnings season, and if you look at equities, traditional financial equities, they've also taken a major hit. So that's kind of where I would think this is coming from, is
Yeah,
maybe weakness from traditional finance, and then we're just kind of uh, getting
could
the
be. So we're trading at just under 115K at the time of recording. So down on the week. The sell-off is, as usual here, not Bitcoin specific. ETH is down currently at around 3,650, which is about an 8.5% drop from its most recent high, which was just shy of 4K. And then I got the Bitcoin dominance chart here. So it has risen from its recent low of around 60% of the entire crypto market cap, now at about just under 62%. So Bitcoin dominance showing strength, I think, as it usually does during these market wide sell offs.
yeah.
Yeah, we got $400 million liquidated from the crypto markets in the past 4 hours. So yeah, bit of bloodbath out
So
there.
I don't have no idea why people would be um, levered long here around here. It just seems unwise, but there it is. Liquidate, liquidate those late shorts. It's rough.
Yeah,
Overall, though, like just in general as a gut check, this doesn't really concern me at all. It doesn't seem anything to worry about. We're still obviously in a bull market. Blah 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 blah. Um, just
where
seems
would
like
you
that
be
kind of thing.
looking to if you had some dry powder on the sidelines? At what level here would you be looking to scoop up some Bitcoin or other cryptos?
For Bitcoin, I think I would look. I think there's I would say an easy level of like 112, like 112, 500, kind of where I would look. That's where you had the big breakout and there was a top in May. So
Around
that would be
here?
the next place. Let me see. Hold on.
Yeah, this sort
Yeah,
of yeah, that level.
and if it bounces off of that, that's where I would try to probably pick something up. If it goes through that, then you would be looking at like 107 500, like 1007 500, and that would be the next level. So 12.5 and then 107.5 for me. Um, but that would be a pretty big 107. If it gets down to 107.5, that's a pretty juicy thing, I think. Um,
Would you
yeah,
be looking to like potentially go long there with leverage at
No,
that level?
I've given up on leverage. That's just not. I'm so bad at it.
Okay,
That I
but
that
that
would
is a juicy level for you.
yeah. And honestly, for me, I have enough Bitcoin, so I wouldn't be probably picking up Bitcoin, but I would use that to give me a signal to look at other things. I think of note, honestly, is if you look at pump, um,
Yeah,
it's kind of been even during this market action, it's kind of consolidating around this like 0.002, like between what two and two and three.
yeah,
Um,
around just under 100 billion market cap.
hmm.
It seems like it's formed a bottom. So as we talked
Well,
about before,
yeah,
uh, like pump forming a bottom, it does seem like it's due for a pump.
yeah, and also someone's buying it right now. You see that? I mean,
Yeah,
like so the market's puking,
yeah.
and someone's. I
Pump is
feel
not
like
going with it. Yeah,
it's not going. Yeah, and that to me that's a pretty good sign. Now,
yeah.
will this continue? I think if we continue to puke, this eventually will kind of break through that level. But even still, I'm starting to think that just from a trade, I don't think long term this is anything worth anything.
Yeah.
But just from a trade perspective, this seems decent and a reasonable signal that at least somebody thinks that this is worth buying at this level and is not really letting go below this level. So I think that's what I'm going to probably look at getting once the market turns around, whenever that
Hype is
is.
another one that has been underperforming over the last month or two.
Yeah.
Hype, of course, the darling of the first stages of this second half of the bull market, I guess. I don't know how
Hmm.
to phrase that, but it's been underperforming. Could also be a buy.
Yeah.
Could also be, yeah,
The
if
the
you're bullish
awesome
on the
guys
long
at
term fundamentals.
exactly some of the like the people at the guys at 1000x podcast, which is awesome. They were saying that you might think that the fact that this has underperformed for the past couple months is a negative sign. They saw it as a buying opportunity, and I
Yeah,
tend to agree. So
yeah,
that's also something I'm looking at. But I didn't want to shill hype too much because I am like a kind of a hype.
yeah.
Uh,
You're
I'm
a heavy
very
bag
bullish hype.
holder.
I'm a heavy bag holder, but I also think that it's a good project. So at this level, I would expect it to break through this level. Honestly, it's at like what 41, 40 ish, 41. So I
You
wouldn't be
expect it to
surprised if
break
it.
down.
Yeah, if Bitcoin continues to puke like this, I think
Yeah,
that you'll have some sellers here.
yeah.
But who knows? But
All
again,
right. Is there
overall, not concerned. How about you?
not concerned? Okay. Is there anything from the FOMC meeting, or we've had a lot of data come out, like macro data, jobs? I think the jobs report thing is coming out today, but we had quite a bit of data this week. Anything on your radar?
I mean, yeah. So this is
Anything of note?
FOMC week. Um, Everyone was wondering if Powell was going to cut rates. I think the consensus was that he wasn't. Consensus was right. Federal Reserve held interest rates steady. However, for the first time in like 30 plus years, there were two dissenters, and they were not surprisingly Trump appointed members. So, two people dissenting. This kind of gives you a kind of an idea of where Trump is going to go when he is able to replace Powell. I mean, he's been pretty obvious with what he's going to do, but there's more evidence in that. Um, the two dissenters wanted a 0.25% cut. So you'll probably get that when Powell eventually finds his way out. But no real surprises here, I think. And to be quite honest, from the people that I follow, um, they were happy that there wasn't a cut. And it's interesting. The reason that they were happy that there wasn't a cut is Powell has been pretty vocal with the fact that he didn't want to cut, and a lot of these like macro analysts, investors thought that if there was a cut, it would be viewed as Trump bullying or having an oversized influence on
Yeah. So
this
not.
supposedly.
So in other words, the cut is not like it's not actually what's needed for the economy, but it's just like a dictator type play.
Yeah, and so it's interesting. So even some of these analysts who think that a cut is would be good, they because of the meta dynamics, they were like, there shouldn't be a cut because it signals that this institution is becoming overly captured by the executive branch. So you have
Yeah.
interesting dynamics in that way, right?
Which isn't good for the long term prospects of the economy. It's
Yeah, because
becoming
you
like
want to have
emerging market behavior.
exactly, yeah, you want to have this kind of so-called Fed independence, um, and so I mean, I think honestly, markets probably were pretty happy about this. Now, that didn't stop them from puking for the past couple of days, but the fact that there wasn't a cut, I think, was overall a good thing. Even though I think I'm in the camp that believes that it the interest rates are probably a little too high, and that we
Yeah.
should cut a little bit.
So you said a lot of earnings came out. I mean, the broader markets selling off. Is this just kind of like a summer sell off? Uh, the like the markets have been a little bit overheated. They got ahead of themselves after Liberation Day. It's just like this was just due for a correction, something like that.
Yeah, I mean that's what it feels like right now. We'll know more in a week or two to see if this is just like a little bump or not. I mean, um, it's liquidity in markets are still not as robust as they are when it starts to get to the fall, right? And you have all these people come back. We're talking about traditional markets now, right? This is still the summertime, so there's less there's less market liquidity, less people in doing things, and so it's easier to have down moves, even up moves. But yeah. So you can kind of have these corrections, I think, more readily. Um, but yeah, I imagine just the market's getting a little ahead of itself, and so you see this like trimming. Um, I think earnings thus far, from what I've seen, have been a mixed bag. You've had some good performance, you've had some bad performance. So overall, no, it's kind of difficult
No obvious
to.
trend.
Yeah. I mean, there are obvious trends like if you're in AI, for example, and all this kind of stuff, you're making money and you're getting investment and stuff. But yeah. Overall, I haven't seen anything too major about that. Um, the U.S. GDP numbers came out, right? Also,
Yeah.
and so you had positive numbers in that regard, right? 3% increase and Q2. Um, this handedly beat the estimate of 2.3%, right? 3% versus 2.3%. That's great. Um, so that's good. Now again, I think from what I've read initially, I still haven't gotten into everything, but we're starting to feel the effects of the tariffs, and so you're seeing consumer demand weaken, and you're seeing companies passing through the tariffs to consumers, um, and that's kind of coming into the numbers now as well. So again, softening numbers and this kind of stuff. This is to kind of to be expected, um, and I mean we could spend a lot of time on this because there's a lot of different opinions on what this means. But um,
All
I'm in the
right.
camp that okay, sorry, go ahead.
You're in the camp that what?
So the tariffs, you have people who say that the tariffs and all this are going to be inflationary, right? It's going to cause prices to go up.
Yeah.
Prices going up is not good, which means that the Fed is not going to cut interest rates, right? Because they're
Yeah.
worried about inflation risk. I'm in the camp that thinks that ultimately these tariffs are going to be deflationary because they quash demand, right? And you're already starting to see that demand is coming off. People are spending less money, services and things of that nature. And so
Yeah.
I think overall it'll be deflationary, which means that you can then cut. So
Yeah. Interesting. Well, I think I mean, like, we haven't seen massive actually tariffs come online yet, really. Like, it's all just, things are just keep getting delayed. But I think I saw a stat. It was there's been $100 billion so far in tariffs levied, which isn't actually, if you consider, like, relative to the size of the US economy, isn't actually that significant. So it's not like enough to, like, really move GDP numbers or
yeah, but I
inflation.
mean these things take time, right? Like
Yeah.
these things move very slowly, and so you have all this inventory that's not going to be tariffed. Even so, they say here's when the tariffs begin, and then you have all this inventory and whatnot that's in transit that doesn't get tariffed, and then later on the new stuff does. So
All right. Well, let's bring it back to crypto a bit away from macro. And it seems like we had quite a few bullish crypto earnings reports.
yeah, definitely. So again, like good news for the crypto industry. Should we just go through these? I can do the first
Sure.
one.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the first one is probably everyone wants to know would be Strategy, right? Formerly MicroStrategy. Hate that name. They recorded record-breaking Q2 uh, profits, 10.2 billion in net income. This is up from 102 million loss last year. So that's crazy, right? From a loss of 102 million last year to a net income, or sorry,
Right.
net
But
income of,
it's just because of the price appreciation of their Bitcoin holdings. Again, strategy doesn't have a business,
that's right.
except if
It's
you call financial wizardry a business, which it is, I
exactly,
guess.
yeah. So 14 billion dollars in unrealized gains from their Bitcoin holdings, and I think the almost all of the profits that we're going to talk about are from like reported income changes that have happened in the past
Uh,
year, right? So these are all like I think maybe they're going to be almost like one time gains because before they weren't reporting these in the same way, and so there's
yeah.
like new rules for this.
Right. So on that note, the next one is Tether. They reported 4.9 billion in quarterly profit. And so their profit is just driven by them having all these assets that they earn money on, but also investments. So, like, they bought a ton of gold that increased in value. Um, Anything else there with Tether? I feel like that's the story.
I mean, they also have a butt ton of treasuries, right?
That's what I mean. So
Um,
they're earning,
okay,
they're just making money on the interest on those treasuries.
yeah. I mean, yeah, yeah. So they also have a lot of Bitcoin. How much Bitcoin do they have? 2.6 billion gains from Bitcoin and gold. So yeah, the Bitcoin and gold has appreciated, and
And then
they're
the rest of
claiming,
their income is from the interest they earn on their treasury holdings.
yeah. So
And
crazy.
Coinbase is up next. What
So
happened with Coinbase?
so again, um, 1.43 billion in net profit. This is up from 36 million 1 year ago, and you're like, wow, this is amazing. What a great, centralized exchange business. They've turned it over. But again, most of this is from uh, their exposure to Bitcoin, which is around 1.26 billion in holdings. And so that's where most of their profit is coming from, is from holding this Bitcoin. Um, but I mean, they are seeing increases across like actually revenue generating areas. So, for example, 5% increase in trading volume,
That's a pretty
63%.
modest increase, I would argue.
Yes, yeah, 63% increase in assets under management, right? Um, which would be basically, I think, the managing other people's Bitcoin through the ETFs and maybe treasury companies and whatnot.
Yeah.
So that's good money to get, right? You're just getting you're getting some kind of basis points on just how much you're holding for other people. Um, so yeah,
Okay, so the big crypto companies are raking in cash.
kind of.
Not sh- not sure what that means for like us pleb Bitcoin holders out here. But one thing that does seem significant is Ray Dalio. He was doing the rounds this week, and he argued on a podcast that actually a 15% allocation to gold or Bitcoin, and he didn't really. He just thought he didn't have any like specifically positive things to say about Bitcoin, but he's saying like a hard asset. Okay. So, and he did mention Bitcoin, gold or Bitcoin. He said 15% allocation is actually prudent in the current environment of rising debt and fiat devaluation. Now, this is pretty huge for quite a few reasons. Like, first of all, it's in the past, Dalio has actively said negative things, I think, about Bitcoin. But
Definitely,
here
yeah.
he's kind of equating it with gold, right? So that's a pretty major shift. But just normally, like the hard asset component of your portfolio, they recommend what, like a 2 to 3%, like at most 5%, right? In under
When
normal
spot ETFs,
circumstances.
when the spot ETFs, Bitcoin spot ETFs came out, they said 1%.
Exactly. And so here you have the legendary hedge fund manager, like super respected guy, historian, pretty economic historian, I guess like you could call him in recent years. He's been out there like sort of pounding the drum about how unsustainable everything is in the global economy, and he's saying 15% is prudent. So like I don't know, five at least to 10x of what has been recommended traditionally. So that's pretty huge.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it I wonder. So he's saying this. Does that mean he's already done this for himself? You'd imagine if he's going out there saying
That's how it
this,
always
then he
works.
right, then he's already positioned himself. So I wonder how much Bitcoin he's gotten, and it's probably through like the ETFs or whatnot, if it is.
Yeah.
But
I heard it's mostly gold that he holds. He does have a bit of Bitcoin.
yeah, I mean that makes sense too, with that much money. But yeah, no, I agree. Very very big, and for me, of course, the reason that this is such a, I would say, kind of important news is that he has been so vocally against Bitcoin in the past. I had some of the quotes that he said before, but I can't find them off the top of my
Yeah, well, it's
head.
interesting because the things that he says about the global economy are has have always been exactly the same thing that Bitcoiners say about the global economy. Like it's a it's a deck of cards. It's like it's just primed for collapse. That we have like unsustainable debt. And but his solution has always been, well, like gold is the hard asset, and I mean that's understandable, of course. But yeah, now he's saying he's kind of looks like he's bucketing gold there in with Bitcoin. It's a pretty big change.
I have a question for you. So, when all these like TradFi guys, like Larry Fink and Ray Dalio, when they move from these positions of very against Bitcoin to then kind of accepting it, I can't help but feel suspicious. I guess I would say, like, has their opinion actually changed, or are they just is this kind of like a trade, or something like that? And I wonder. I can't help but be deeply suspicious of their motives. I don't know if you
No,
have that
I get it. I
experience.
get it. I get it. It's just like it's just like any other KOL, right? Like, But I don't know. I mean, for some reason, I kind of respect Ray Dalio just because he's so old. Like, it's come on, man. He's already made his bag. It's more about legacy for him at this point.
Yeah.
So,
No, I mean, I go
yeah,
back and forth because I think like some of these legendary investors think one thing that I think kind of is true of all of them is how strongly they have their opinions, but then they're they change their opinions reasonably
yeah,
often, and
yeah,
that's a good thing. It's not a bad thing. Um, so I mean, in my mind, I kind of go back and forth between that. But yeah. I mean, overall, really good thing, and I just hope, yeah, I'm a mid IQ suspicion, I guess. What do we have up next, man?
yeah,
Going to go into the White House crypto report.
yeah. So with the White House crypto report, okay. So I don't know if you guys remember, but way back, basically, as soon as in the days after Trump took office, he there was an executive order, and this was January 23rd, and he gave 180 days for the working group on digital asset markets to issue a report, and that 180-day period is pretty much up. They issued the report just a few days ago. It's a 160-page report. And I mean, the reaction in the Bitcoin community was pretty like, okay, there's this. They didn't. It was pretty disappointed. The Bitcoin community was disappointed. They had hoped for something concrete about the Bitcoin strategic reserve, but in the actual report, it was really just like lip service. Like they did mention the Bitcoin strategic reserve, but they just reaffirmed that it's a thing. There was no there were no details on holding size, timelines, implementation status, nothing like that. So, kind of disappointing there if you were hoping for like real movement on the Bitcoin strategic reserve.
Wasn't it also the case that like the word crypto was used a lot more than the word Bitcoin? So there's saw some Bitcoiners upset about the fact that it was more crypto focused, and not really Bitcoin focused.
Hmm. Yeah, that could well be the case. Anything else to add on that one, David?
Not much. I mean, I heard that there were outside of the Bitcoin community, um, or sorry, outside of the hardcore Bitcoin community, uh, people were happy with the report, right? Like the report was well received, I think, by the crypto community, as opposed to the Bitcoin community. So even though um, Bitcoiners, hardcore Bitcoiners, were maybe disappointed in general, it was seen as a very positive thing by the larger crypto community. So wasn't all
Okay.
bad.
All right. Let's talk about the IMF's seeming pivot on Bitcoin. Or is this a pivot? What's happened here? Can you explain this one, David?
Yeah. So hard to say exactly what this is. I mean, I understand their motivations. Um, 'Cause they want to be able to they want to be able to like accurately judge how much money nations have, right, and how much value they have. But yeah, so the IMF um, published an article on Thursday, is it yesterday, recommending what it calls, quote, an updated system of national accounts, um, and this is going to change how they value emerging technologies like Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies into the calculations of a nation's GDP. So previously, Bitcoin and crypto wasn't calculated into GDP, but obviously now when you have all these Bitcoin treasury companies, you have ETFs and stuff like that, um, you want to be able to capture value that's moving from areas where they could capture it before, and then it kind of just entered a black hole, right? Like you can imagine a company has a lot of cash, and that's captured by the IMF, and then they take that cash and they buy Bitcoin, and then suddenly it would look like the cash just kind of like disappeared, right? Because the Bitcoin isn't entered into the calculation. So they want to be able to capture that the value is still there. So I mean, that I think that's the overall thing that they're doing. Um, they do have these like slight little knocks against Bitcoin still. Like they couldn't help themselves. I thought this was funny. Um, the article explains, quote, Bitcoin uses as much electricity as Argentina. Yet, because it doesn't involve the creation of goods or services in the traditional sense, it isn't counted in gross domestic product. So it's just, they still can't, they can't help themselves and be like, see how wasteful it
Yeah.
is?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, you might be reading too much into it there. They didn't actually say it's wasteful, but they're just like it's economic. It's like there's things are happening in the real world. Electricity, they're using the same amount of electricity as a country, but there's no account of how that contributes to GDP. I guess that's just what they're saying.
Maybe. I don't know. Yeah. I mean, hasn't the IMF been
They definitely
suspicious?
are
Yeah.
against Bitcoin, as we've talked about many times.
Yeah. Yeah.
Of course, forcing El Salvador to lay off the Bitcoin rhetoric in order to get their IMF loan.
Yeah.
Speaking of El Salvador, there's an interesting report that came out, and I want to talk about that. But first, let's just hear from Bitcoin OS one more time. Thanks again for sponsoring the show.
Bitcoin OS is the ultimate upgrade to Bitcoin. Bitcoiners can now experience the magic of the entire crypto world without giving up control of their hard-earned sats, using a system that's based on zero-knowledge cryptography rather than trust the way Satoshi intended. Bitcoin OS is powered by the Boss token. The binding energy that reawakens Bitcoin is the foundation of a united crypto world. Enter the Boss token presale and be early to Bitcoin again.
All right. So in El Salvador, there was a report recently that came out, and basically it said that 70% of all Salvadorians have owned Bitcoin at some point, and 30% currently own it. So you could, on the face of it, you could be like, "Oh, wow, that's a high amount of adoption." However, what has to be remembered, of course, is that when El Salvador rolled out its Bitcoin uh, platform, they gave $30 in Bitcoin to every citizen, um, maybe above a certain age. Anyway, it was like an airdrop, okay, and to get it, you had to like KYC and receive it in their Chivo wallet. But the reality is that 60% of everyone who received that Bitcoin has dropped it, and so uh, while at one point 70% of all Salvadorians own Bitcoin, it's down to 30%. And interestingly, and here's where I think there might be something interesting to discuss. Only 1% of the total remittance volumes in El Salvador run through Bitcoin. So pretty much Bitcoin is an abject failure in the remittance use case. I don't know if that's surprising to you or not, David.
Of course not. I mean, come on. Like anyone who's used Bitcoin, who's actually used it, would know or would predict that, right?
Yeah,
It's
if you're trying to send $100 to someone in another country, you're gonna pay like a couple of dollars in Bitcoin fees. Plus, if you like just on the Bitcoin transaction on the Bitcoin network. You can pay those fees. Plus, if you actually want to get that Bitcoin into like fiat, which is how you buy things in the world, you're going to pay additional fees on top of that. So it's not exactly you're not saving money on the remittance
Mm,
use case.
yeah. And I mean, as we've talked about before, Bitcoin right now is not electronic money. It doesn't have that narrative at all. Um, and it's just the store of value
Yeah.
meme that's kind of powering it. So um, it's not used to transact for money. I would just say before I talk about one thing is during this time when the El Salvador had the airdrop, there was a
Yeah.
lot of good there was a lot of good reporting from El Salvadorian reporters talking about some of the crazy stuff that was happening on the ground, where the local gangs, the local uh, organized crime, they were paying people to claim their Bitcoin and then give it to the gang. And so you just you saw this crazy kind of system where yeah these gang members would, or these organized crime whatever groups would, for example, give people $5 in actual fiat
Yeah.
currency, and then they would take them
Take
to
the
those
$30 in Bitcoin.
take
Yeah.
them to those ATMs and do it. And the
Yeah.
people are like,
So
yeah, of course we want to do this because this thing is useless to me, right? And you saw
yeah,
this happening
I'll
like
take
en
$5.
masse.
Sure.
Exactly, right? Right? Why not? Right? Not?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I mean,
So surprise, surprise. Like when a government tries to roll out something, there ends up being corruption. Um,
yeah,
one thing I've like obviously, well, not obvious. I mean, is it obvious? This whole El Salvador Bitcoin thing, it's really it's just a marketing thing, isn't it? Like El Salvador is just trying to like differentiate themselves, and
I,
you could argue in that respect it's been successful because you have had prominent Bitcoiners move out there. You've probably you've got some investment. Tether has now set up operations in El Salvador, so it does seem smart in that respect.
yeah, I mean, I, I I think that you probably have a mix of people who actually believed that this was going to work. You know, they're probably like
Mhm.
the nerd Bitcoiners, this kind of thing. Um, and then maybe some of the government officials or bureaucrats were a little more cynical in terms of knowing that this was absolutely farcical. Um, so yeah, you probably have a mix of both. But I don't know. I mean, I am the perennial wet blanket here, so I obviously thought this was gonna not work from the
Yeah,
get go.
but I think
Um,
it I don't know. Maybe we're too close to it because we're in Bitcoin, but like I feel like El Salvador's reputation has dramatically improved over the last few years, and it's a combination of the Bitcoin thing and the crackdown on crimes.
I yeah no,
Like the
I
young,
disagree.
no,
I don't think.
no, okay,
Well, I don't think it has anything to do with Bitcoin. I think it has everything to do with the
the
crackdown
crime,
on the crime thing. Yeah.
okay,
But even that, like, if not to get political here, but the crackdown on crime thing amongst the Americans that I know on the left has given them a worse reputation, like far worse. Right? They see that as like a terrible human rights violation and all this kind of stuff. So I think maybe their reputation is still like a mixed bag. But I think it's undeniable that um, they've gotten more attention, good and bad, and so now people, at least in America, if you mention El Salvador, they'll have an opinion. Whereas like maybe 10 years ago, they'd be like, "Huh, where is that?" So
yeah. Any marketing is good marketing.
exactly, yeah.
All right, let's move on to another story, which I just came across this morning, which it's a massive contrast, I think, to El Salvador. So Algeria has completely banned Bitcoin and crypto, including mining. So issuance, purchase, sale, possession, promotion, all of those things, all of those aspects of digital currencies are now prohibited in Algeria. And ostensibly it is to crack down on money laundering and illicit capital flows, but probably more it's just about protecting their ability to print money and protect their financial system.
Yeah,
That's what I would say.
I agree. And I mean, this kind of ties in with, I think, a rising narrative that we're going to see over the next couple years, especially since the Genius Act was passed, which is nations and like consortiums of nations, for example, the EU, which Lagarde has kind of come out and said explicitly, are worried about stable coins, specifically dollar denominated stable coins. And that's going to really impact central banks all over the world to enact their policy and get their um, citizens to buy their crappy currency, crappy local currency.
Okay, so the EU and now I mean like or Algeria is maybe an early mover here in this. What you're predicting is going to be a trend of countries basically saying no, we're not opting into this like crypto based US dollar new world order.
Yeah, I mean, I think
We're out. We want to
yeah,
have some control over our currency. So
I would say
yeah,
opt
I
in
mean,
is the wrong word. I would say they're going to ban it, right?
yeah,
Like this is
exactly.
the
So yeah, so if that's what I mean, if you don't ban it, you're effectively opting in. So
yeah,
yeah, I think you're right. I think we're going to see a wave of countries have extremely restrictive cryptocurrency policies here coming soon, and like Algeria is just the first.
exactly. I mean, I think Nigeria did it for the past couple of years, right? They had like incredibly harsh penalties if you were holding this stuff, right? And yeah, it's all because they worry about their crappy currency just getting nuked and like not used even more
Yeah,
than it
and
is now.
I mean that's entirely understandable. Countries want that ability to control their monetary system.
Yeah, and
So
then,
the question is I think, will the bans be effective? Will will that actually improve the situation in those countries? I think that's what we're really going to have to see. That's what's going to play out here over the next decade.
the bans will not be effective, right? I don't think they're going to be effective because they're not going to stop. They're not going to really be able to stop citizens from taking their poorly performing local currency and trading it out for stables and then trading amongst themselves, right? Um, and so I think that's going to continue
So
no
what's the
matter what.
solution for these countries? Embrace it somehow? Does that help them? Because that you could argue that's even worse.
No, I mean
They
it's
lose
it's
all
kind of
control.
it's kind of a. I mean, the solution is easy. It's like the solution for like someone who comes to you, Graham, and asks you like, how do I lose weight? Uh, the solution is really easy, but executing it is hard, right? Like the solution is to
What,
make a
meth?
currency that's not no,
Ozempic? What's the
no,
solution?
to losing weight. Yeah, you just eat less, exercise.
Oh,
It's
okay,
pretty
okay.
pretty basic.
So the
It's easy to
solution for
understand.
these countries is like have an economic system that
Isn't
like
shit.
isn't a scam, isn't a
Yeah, yeah,
scam.
yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
where you're
Have
not just
have
like scraping money from the lower class and funneling it to the upper class like
yeah.
that.
Have
Oh,
less
okay,
corruption. Have less
okay.
corruption. Have trust in the central bank. Don't make dumb monetary decisions and this kind of thing, right? It's pretty,
Mm-hmm.
but really, really hard to do, right? I think so.
Yeah.
Um, Apparently, really hard to do for a lot of countries. Bigger countries though, like Japan and I mean, bigger countries with like high quality currencies, they'll be fine. Japan will be fine. Switzerland will be fine. Even the EU will be fine. Um, because their systems are robust and there is quite a lot of trust in them. They will get eroded a
Yeah.
little bit, but not I don't think in
I
such a
mean,
big way.
is there a danger that this is going to be just really destabilizing to a lot of countries around the world, or or is it the other side of it where actually it's just gonna it's like a rip off the bandage situation, and it's gonna lead to to force these countries to actually have like sound economic policies.
That's a really good question. I mean, just from a consumer perspective or from the citizens' perspective, I think it's going to be a massive upgrade, right? Because they're going to be able to, their local governments are probably corrupt and inept, you know, um, eh, by comparison to Western governments. And so then they'll be able to preserve more of their wealth. They'll be able to use the financial rails that like DeFi and whatever like provides, and not have to get jerked around by their local governments. So I mean, from that perspective, I think it'll be maybe net positive. Um, but yeah, I mean that would be my basic idea. It it could be really. I mean, yeah, those are my initial thoughts. How about you?
Yeah, no, I think it will be. There'll be tough times ahead. There'll be a lot of destabilization. I think it's going to increase the amount of um, war, quite frankly. Like, but there's going to be certain people who benefit from the transition, namely holders, I think, of like these hard assets.
But how is it better? How is it worse than the current situation where these currencies just get like nuked, devalued, and they have just incredible instability? Um, I don't see. I mean, it's
Yeah.
already
So
destabilizing. So
yeah,
super
exactly.
destabilizing.
So what happens, I think, is so that okay. So these countries already have these terrible policies, right? But and in the past, they've been able to prevent leakage out of their system. So, but now with these new like cryptocurrency rails, they're not going to be able to prevent that leakage, which is going to erode their ability to keep things together. So you're going to, in the short term, you're going to see increased like collapses, increased number of collapses in a lot of countries of their like economic system. Because like maybe
Yeah.
it'll just the result is just an acceleration of it. So you're going to see more over a short period of time.
Yeah. I mean, I think yeah, you could see it get a bit worse. I just don't know how much worse it'll get than it currently is. When I mean, because I think of some of these countries with, again, the reason that the currency is so bad is not just from one thing. It's from a lot of things, right? Like bad public infrastructure, corruption, poor performing government. The list goes on and on and on. Um, and you look at some of these countries that already have been relying on dollars, not stable coins, but dollars. And the reason that they do that is because it's already a pretty bad situation. So I don't know how much worse this will make it. It'll make it marginally worse, but how much worse will it actually get? But anyway, so
Okay.
um,
I think this is
one.
like a
Go ahead.
major thing to be following in the Bitcoin world, like how this whole thing, Bitcoin and crypto world, how this situation plays out, like much, how accepting are countries around the world of these new stablecoin rails, crypto rails, Bitcoin, all that. Like it's going to accelerate now that we have like the Genius Act and this like broad acceptance on the regulatory front in the US now. I think it's going to rapidly accelerate
No,
this
I
narrative.
agree.
Yeah.
I have two points on this. So the first would be, I think that you're going to see the dominance of the dollar increase a lot
Yeah.
over the next couple decades. So the dollar is going to become even more entwined with the international system because of this. It already is basically it's a vast majority. And then the second would be, as I've listened to a couple other podcasts this past week talking about the Genius Act, you're going to see you're going to see a rise of like kind of two paths for stable coins. You're going to have the US domiciled stable coins, and then you're going to have the offshore stable coins, and you're going to see both increase. Um,
Mm.
right. Like, so for example, Tether is making a new USDT. That's because it's following all
For the
the
US.
US for the US rules. But then there's going to be kind of some exchange rate there. And then you're going to have things like in our chat, dude, we have Metapills. Shout out to Metapills. He's at Alpin Labs, and you're going to have the rise of like some like really exciting things where you have like I think they're doing a Bitcoin backed, completely programmatic stablecoin, right? So it's a stablecoin that uses over collateralized Bitcoin to create a dollar denominated stablecoin. Um, to me, that's actually really exciting because it's not going to be centralized like all these other stablecoins we're
Yeah.
talking about. And because it's collateralized by Bitcoin, and I'm sure the LTV is incredibly generous. Yeah, these things are going to be quite powerful, I think.
Yeah. All right. We got one more. I think we have time for one more topic today. So let's talk about this ETH, the ETH corporate treasury meta for a minute. So hold on, let me just find some of the notes here.
While you're
Yeah,
finding that,
so-
let me just say happy birthday, Ethereum. 10 years.
Yeah,
10 years old.
Happy birthday to Ethereum. Ethereum was what the chain went live on July 30th, 10 years
July
ago.
30th, 2015. The
Mainnet went
first,
live.
Yeah, the first block, the Genesis block, went live on July 30th, 2015. Very cool stuff.
10 years.
Yeah.
All right. And okay, so there's an interesting development, I think, in the ETH corporate treasury meta this week. So Bitmine, that's the one, the ETH corporate treasury company that's headed or with Tom Lee as its spokesperson, CEO. Anyway, they announced an open-ended $1 billion share repurchase. And I think a lot of people would have expected that when you buy, you're announcing that you're going to be buying back $1 billion of the shares, that the price of the stock would increase, but instead it fell by 10 or 11% that day. So this seems like a potential crack in the corporate treasury meta. So basically it feels like the market might be saying here, actually, we don't trust you to grow the NAV per share without diluting us, without burning us, or something like that. I don't know, David, if you have any insights into this. Anytime we talk about these corporate treasury things, it's a complex web of like financial wizardry. So it's always hard to discuss. But
this was, I think, the reason that it fell so much is that it's kind of a head scratcher in terms of why the hell would you do that, right? Because so the playbook has been you you use money. So like, for example, you issue new shares or you take out loans or whatever, and use that money to increase the holdings of whatever crypto treasury du jour you have. And that increases the MNAV. But you don't, that increases the MNAV, and then that increases the value of the individual stock. In this case, though, they're just going directly to increasing the price of the stock by buying back shares, which doesn't actually increase their holdings of the underlying crypto asset. So it's like a weird, and it's not, no one's really doing this. So it's kind of a head scratcher. Like, why are you doing this? Why aren't you following the normal formula, which is buy more of the thing, buy more of the crypto asset to increase the value of the stock, right? And that's the eventual thing. Instead, they're just going back to like buying the stock. So I think people were just very confused by their strategy, and honestly, so am I. I don't know why they're doing this. It doesn't really make sense. I read some analysts who also were like, I have no idea why they're doing this, but maybe um, maybe they thought that the value of the stock should just be higher. I mean, that's what. I mean, why are you doing this, right? What's the
Mm,
reasoning?
yeah. Right. So they're planning to buy $1 billion of the stock. Why not just buy the Ethereum instead?
Yeah, and I mean, so usually what you do, for example, is you issue new stock, right? So you dilute the stock.
Yeah.
In essence, you're giving away, not giving away the stock, but you're making more stock, and then you use that to buy the asset. So why this is like the opposite,
The
right?
opposite.
They're
Mm.
which is strange. The
Well,
purpose is if you're
yeah.
like, so for example, this is not Bitcoin, but the purpose is like Sailor and all these people. There's like almost like a religious component. The purpose is
Yeah.
not to make the stock more valuable. The purpose is to make Bitcoin more valuable, kind of, right?
Or it's to make the NAV, that the ratio of how much Bitcoin you have per dollar of stock
Yeah. But
higher,
there's this like
right?
sanctity to the underlying asset. It's like the stock is not as important as as this like thing in Bitcoin, in this case Ethereum, that's underlying it, right? And you expect the price of Bitcoin to go up, right? Appreciate. You expect the
Yeah.
price. You expect the value of the Ethereum to go up. So again, very bizarre uh,
Yeah. Well,
technique.
I mean, you said that maybe the reason they did it is just they want the stock price higher, because I mean, you could like the stock was $5 before they became an ETH corporate treasury company, and it pumped 25x to $135, and early July was the peak, but it's been bleeding out ever since, just like a down only since then. It's around $35 now. So maybe the rationale was like, we need to throw a bone to these people who are getting burned by the stock price.
Yeah, but then what are they going to do in the future? Are they going to issue new shares? In essence, redilute
Dilute
them.
them late. Yeah. So it's, yeah, exactly. So I think it should, this just maybe goes to the whole ridiculousness of this whole thing. Like it's all just about sentiment and attention, and yeah,
Well, I
like
mean, like you got to look at Sailor and what he's doing, and that seems to make sense. Like at least it seems to like be internally consistent, right? Like it, and all the
mm,
and people much more like much smarter than me and into this financial stuff understand the structure that they're using to make this, and they're like, yep, it's sound, it's working well. This kind of thing though just seems like it's like retard version, right? Like it's,
yeah, I don't know, maybe Tom Lee, he's playing some 4D chess here. He's got something up his sleeve, but we don't see it. I mean, that wouldn't be surprising. Self-admitted mid-wit here. So
exactly same here, dude. I mean, when it comes to this stuff, I don't know, but it is kind of a head scratcher. Like
yeah,
why are they doing this?
yeah,
So maybe it'll turn out to be the right move, I guess. I don't know.
yeah. All right. I think that's a good place to end it. David, thank you as always for your insights. Thank you to Bitcoin OS for sponsoring the show. And thanks for everyone for listening. Have a great week.